What's up, everyone? Dan here, Crypto Capital Venture, December 24th, 2018. There is a global shift happening right before our eyes. On the screen, first of all, this is the S&P 500. This isn't Bitcoin. We're going to check out that chart in just a second. We're going to look at Bitcoin charts. Before we do, I tweeted a little bit ago, we've been vulnerable to the banks and merchants who were trusting with our hard-earned money for too long. I've been making a slow shift away from this entire ecosystem because it's an ecosystem of theft and deceit. Time for a revolution. I have to tell you firsthand, as I grow my business, and as I've been running business for 10 years or so now, the deceit and the theft, they grow stronger every year. And it is more blatant every year. And it is time for a revolution. And actually, the revolution has begun. So as I said, here's the S&P 500. These are traditional markets, S&P 500, top 500 large companies by market capitalization. This is what you're looking at on the charts. And you can see it. We're going back to the 50s here. I thought I'd draw a very quick trend line. I'm not really doing technical analysis here, but you see what's happening. You see what's probably most likely ahead for traditional markets from these recent all-time highs. We have potential 50% plus pullback, if not worse, and that's something we haven't seen since, many remember 58% pullback, 60% pullback back in, 2008 time. So right now, what is different in terms of these traditional markets and maybe a correction pullback is there is this revolution happening, this revolution called Bitcoin, and it is powerful, and it is going to change the markets that you see on the screen. It is going to change the way that we do business. It's going to change the way that we bank. It is going to change everything in terms of all of these things. And you can see the shift, a very quick, clear picture if you haven't seen it. Jameson Lopp, Lightning Network, January 2018 versus December 2018, 11 months. 11-month growth of the Lightning Network. If you've been a doubter of the Lightning Network, I encourage you to stop doubting. It is foundation. It is foundational to Bitcoin and its growth. Here is January 2018 Lightning Network. Here is December 2018 Lightning Network. Innovation at its finest. Illustrated beautifully on a pretty awesome looking picture, if we can call it that. It looks awesome. And that is the growth of the Lightning Network. And this is just the beginning of this revolution, taking power back in the midst of this decentralization, this decentralized environment, this new global shift of the way that we transact privately. It's happening. So wanted to start off with that, just really preface this video with that. We're just at the beginning. We can zoom out on the daily chart in Bitcoin, right? We don't have to extend back to the 50s. We're not going back that far. But here's basically the lifetime history of Bitcoin on the screen. You see its growth. Bitcoin is still in its infancy. You see it on the screen right here. There's so much that plays into this storyline that we've covered in multiple different videos. We're not going to cover that in this video. We're really going to get into the technicals of the daily and the 4-hour just for an update for today. Not much different than last night when we did the live stream. But you see it on the screen here, right? And this shift that's currently happening in the traditional markets in terms of potential correction, so many unhealthy things happening in that market, coinciding with a recent, little uptick for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in this market. Not at the top of a run, but we're in the middle of a bottom, right? We're forming a bottom. We're potentially at the end, at least 75%, I would say, 80% maybe, to the end of a bear market here. And so Bitcoin, in the long term, we're talking years and years. In the short term, we're talking months. However you want to spin it, in a way, more healthy area. Just poised for greatness, poised for revolution, poised for success. You either doubt it or you're on board. And I'm sure there are some people watching this video that might doubt it, but it's all good. So as we said, Bitcoin right now, we're going to talk about the technicals of what we're looking at on the screen. I want to preface, I talked about this at the end of the video last night. I want to start this video with it. Overextension from the 200 EMA in this last bear market, right? So here's the last bear market up here. I want to start with this. Overextension from the 200 EMA. If you haven't seen it, 58, 60%. But what happened back then, which you can see on the screen, we had a bounce off that area, which we were anticipating this time around with a 50 to 60% overextension from the 200 EMA, high potential for a bounce. So oversold. So last bear market, we got a bounce, pulled back to the 50 EMA, and we had a slight little consolidation after that back down, right? And we're talking that bounce off of that high there, we're talking about 30% back down. So a little bit of volatility in that regard. So I ended last night's live stream basically throwing caution out there. So because in this time around, similarly, as we form the bottom for Bitcoin, we have similar overextension that we've recently seen close to 50%. Really, actually, right around 50% overextension. So we hit that mark and we got a bounce. We had an oversold strong bounce thus far. It's been a nice last week, right? And you can see we've had a bounce so far of around 30+%, not quite touching the 50 EMA as of yet. It could potentially happen, but we haven't hit it yet. But I threw caution out last night saying whether it's now or whether we go up a little bit more and touch that 50 EMA, be careful. Be careful because we might see a little shift to the downside, a pivot to the downside, particularly in this long term. We did these long-term Fibonacci retracements. So this is a 786 Fibonacci retracement, which swings from this high down to, well, I should chart this for you so you see it. So let's chart it. We'll take our Fibonacci. It's basically from this previous swing low to the swing high, and this 786 line is right here. So we took that data, long-term data, and we did a similar Fibonacci from this previous swing low, which is that last bear market, to our most previous swing high, and we have another 786, the yellow line right here. And in both instances, it has really helped define the bottom, but it's also proved to show some resistance in that area in getting out of this bear market. So you see resistance right at the 50 EMA and that Fibonacci level. A little bit of resistance here, right? Resistance. And then we broke out of that pattern, in 5 or 6 months. But I just throw that same caution in this situation. It might take a little bit of time, a little bit of grappling back and forth with these two key resistance areas, the 50 EMA, this Fibonacci 786. So there may be some volatility in these areas. So please, I just throw caution out there to be prepared for that. In my opinion, I'm prepared in the essence of I would like to accumulate if we see little dips, right? If we see rejection at these areas, which is very likely, right? We'll see rejection. We'll have nice dips back into maybe possibly lower 3,000s, even potentially in the mid to high 2,000s. So be prepared for that. So right now, on the shorter term, we can look at the daily. We can open it up. We have a key Fibonacci rejection happening right now. When I did the live stream, this is something we've been tracking. When I did the live stream yesterday, it was, potentially having a run out of this channel, right? This swing high right here back in end of November to this previous swing low. And we have this 786 to 618 Fibonacci channel right there that we were looking to break yesterday. We wicked above it. So we were above it when I did last night's live stream, I believe. But we actually didn't stay above it. And that's what we were looking to do. It hasn't happened. Time will tell. We might trade sideways within it for a while before attempting to break above it, and also simultaneously perhaps making a run above the 50 EMA here on the daily. That's something we're looking for and we're watching today leading into tomorrow, either rejection there or breaking above it. It's a key resistance area to watch right now. So on the 4 hour, here's what we're looking at. So I want to set the tone by looking at the bear market, because this really helps paint a picture in terms of what we want or what we're looking for Bitcoin to do, right? So this plays into potentially a bullish cross above this Fibonacci channel. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to pivot to the 4 hour. Here's the 4 hour in the bear market. When Bitcoin was in this grapple throughout the bottom, this is probably one of the most powerful things you can take note of and just study and watch, which is this battle of the 50 EMA with the 200 EMA. This blue line, 50 EMA, with the pink line, the 200 EMA. Back and forth. Rejection of the 50 to the 200. 50 above the 200 and then back down. 50 above the 200 and then slightly seeing support above it, right? Bouncing off it. That's a very bullish sign. However, Bitcoin had one more cross and then the final entry into the bull market, which is this 50 cross above the 200 EMA. And then you see very, very nice run for Bitcoin. And then you see very nice support, the 50 EMA above the 200 EMA. And the rest is history and a continued uptrend in the markets. So key things to look out for in these markets are, number one, a 50 EMA cross on the 4 hour above the 200 EMA cross. That's one of the first healthy signs that we could be exiting a bear market. That doesn't mean we will in that moment. You have to keep an eye to see if the 50 stays above the 200 and if we continue breaking resistance areas on the short term. But it's that first step. If you just want to glance at the 4 hour chart, where's the 50 and the 200? Who's winning? Number two, continued uptrend support above the 50 EMA. So we get a 50 EMA cross above the 200. We need to see continued uptrend support above the 200, right? And here's a great picture of it. 50 EMA support above the 200. So we have the 50 EMA above the 200 line. And then we have continued uptrend support of Bitcoin above the 50. Bounce, 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 right? And that's what we're looking for in today's market. So here's the 4 hour chart. We've had the opposite. We've had continued rejection below the 50. And we've also had Bitcoin failing to make a cross above the 200. So we're looking for the opposite of that now. We're looking for a 50 EMA cross above the 200. And then we're looking for continued support above the 50 EMA for Bitcoin. So in terms of following your moving averages, those are some of the things you want to look out for. Now, coinciding with those things, it's good if you want to watch the daily resistance area right now for Bitcoin, 41.35, let's call it 41.35, a big resistance area. You can watch that coinciding with those 4 hour EMAs. Watch that area for resistance. If we break above it, next area of resistance, we're looking at the 50 EMA, clearly a huge area for Bitcoin to break above. The next bullish sign for Bitcoin, if we can break above 43.44. But I want to throw caution yet again. Look for strong resistance in this channel. That short-term Fibonacci channel down here at 41.35. Up to that 50 EMA at 43.35. This could prove to be the channel that defeats Bitcoin in the short term, right here. Huge resistance channel. And this could be what gives us that same type of rejection, right, that Bitcoin had in that last bear market, if I can get to it, back here, right, that 50 EMA rejection. And so be ready for that. That's kind of what I wanted to throw out there in today's video, to be ready for it. And then, we can get a sense of this longer term atmosphere of Bitcoin and how is Bitcoin looking by two good things, two strong indicators in terms of momentum. Number one, we have the MACD cross on the daily that we've recently seen some strength in, right? We've definitely seen some strength in, but you can see the MACD line still below the zero on the histogram. So we need some patience to see how that momentum plays out. But maybe even more powerfully for you, if you're long on Bitcoin, is just to take a glance at the RSI and even the stock RSI. So this RSI, this slower moving momentum oscillator, just got out of the oversold area in Bitcoin. And we have some upward momentum, but you see this long-term space for growth is there. This somewhere in the history of our lives, in the history of charting, is a bull run. We just don't know exactly when it will commence. And even on the stock RSI, you can see overbought, still in that overbought area. And then the MACD, we haven't even gotten a weekly cross of the MACD above the signal line. So we're not out of these woods yet. And there could be some more downside. I just want to, prepare you for that. But right now in this week, we've had a very healthy week. This is a stepping stone. Whether the bear market, begins, in a month, 2 months, 3 months, this is a very critical stepping stone to forming the bottom. So I think it's been a great week for Bitcoin, not only in terms of technical analysis, but in terms of the momentum of the technology. And there it is, the Lightning Network alone. You see a picture of it. This has been a longer video, but I wanted to really dig into what's going on in the markets as we enter Christmas tomorrow. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. I hope you stay blessed, stay safe. Appreciate each and every one of you. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I would love to have you as part of the channel. I will see you all in the next video. Have an awesome day, and God bless.